Hello, everybody. We are at week number 8. So today we are going to be looking at communication in relationships. So while you get that packet out, there should be a packet that you fill out as we go through our notes. I'm going to share my screen. Give me just a second. Get it all pulled up. Okay, so communicating in relationships. We all have different types of relationships in our lives, whether it's friends, coworkers, partners, spouses, whatever it might be. We all have relationships, kids, whatever it might be. So we're just gonna. This is a pretty short little class. So we'll go through this one, and I've got some videos at the end, like usual, and we'll get this done. So what is communication? And we've talked about this before. By definition, communication is the transfer of information from one place to another. In relationships, communication allows you to explain to someone else what you're experiencing and what your needs are. The act of communicating not only helps to meet your needs, but it also helps to be connected in a relationship. So it's important that we do communicate in one way or another. Voice our feelings, voice your opinions, things like that. So it's the transfer of information from one place to another. Remember, you have to have two people to have a relationship, whether that's spouses, whether it's family, siblings, whatever it is. All right, so clearly communicating in relationship. It's important to talk to each other. No matter how well you know and love each other, you cannot read your partner's mind. As much as we would like to be able to or think that we can, we've got to talk, we've got to communicate. We need to communicate clearly to avoid misunderstandings that may cause hurt, anger, resentment, or even confusion. This is even in your friendship relationships, son and daughter relationship, like any kind of relationship. We have to, we don't want to have misunderstandings that could cause hurt, anger, or resentment or confusion. And it takes practice. Like, it's not just going to happen overnight for a lot of people. You have to have good commitment to communicate, and things like that. So it takes practice and hard work. So don't give up by any means. Just be ready to put in the work. It takes two people to have a relationship. Each person has a different communication needs and styles. Couples need to find a way to communicate that suits their relationship. Healthy communication styles require practice and hard work. However, communication will be never be perfect all the time. Be clear when communicating with your partner or the other person so that your message can be received and understood. Double check your understanding of what your partner is saying. So repeat back. So what you're saying is, ask questions like we learned to earlier in the class. Set aside time to talk without interruption from other people or distractions like phones, computers, or even the television. And that's really important. Put the phones down, cut off the TV when we're trying to communicate or solve a problem or just talk in general. Put away those distractions. And especially now with today's technology, we're always on our phones, or a lot of the time we're on our phones. So just be aware of that we set aside time without interruption, that we can focus and can communicate to the other person. And think about what you want to say. What are you going to communicate to the other person? Sometimes I've even written stuff down, pros and cons of, a situation that my husband and I, or my kids even, things that they have wanted to do. Like, I've even written down pros and cons or the questions that I have for the other person. Make your message clear so that your partner hears it accurately and understands what you mean. So think about what you want to say. Talk about what is happening and how it affects you. So you want to think about like using I statements and how it affects me, not affects the other person. We always want to accept responsibility for our own feelings. It makes me mad, it makes me hurt, it makes me sad, whatever it is. Accept responsibility for your feelings. Listen to your partner, put aside your own thoughts for the time being, and try to understand their intentions and their feelings, their needs, and their wants. That's called empathy, but trying to listen to the partner and not just your partner, but think about listening to, um, what somebody else has to say. Share positive feelings with your partner, such as what you appreciate and admire about them and how important they are to you. So share your positive feelings. Be aware of your tone of voice. And this can be important. My students have said to me, like before they get to know me, like early on in class, early on in the school year, like, why are you yelling at us? Like you yell at us all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm just naturally loud. You'll know when I'm yelling. And we kind of joke about it then, but I am naturally loud. So think about your tone of voice when you're communicating with other people. Like I have to really stop and think about to bring my tone down to more of a calming or a more collected tone instead of just being, out there and loud all the time. Negotiate and remember that you don't have to always be right all the time. And that's hard for a lot of people, but we don't always have to be right all the time. If the issue you're having is not that important, sometimes let the issue go or agree to disagree. And we've all heard that. It's okay to agree to disagree on some things if it's not that important. So nonverbal communication, things we want to think about. What we say when we say nothing at all. When we communicate, we say a lot without speaking. Our body posture, tone of voice, and the expressions on our face all convey a message. These nonverbal means of communicating can tell the other person how we feel about them. Our feelings if your feelings don't fit with your words, it is often the nonverbal communication that gets heard and believed. For example, saying I love you to your partner in a flattened, bored tone of voice gives two very different messages. Notice whether your body language reflects what you're saying. So think about what your body language is saying, your body posture, your tone of voice, and your expressions. All right, listening and communication. This is another really important part. Listening is a very important part of effective effective communication. A good listener can encourage their partner to talk openly and honestly. And here are some tips. Keep comfortable eye contact where culturally appropriate. Remember way back at the beginning of class where we said some cultures having good eye contact is not acceptable. So we want to make sure that, culturally here in America, usually good eye contact is acceptable. So keep comfortable eye contact. Look at people in the eyes if that's appropriate. Lean towards the other person and make gestures to show that your interest and concern. So usually it's a head nod or, something like that. Have an open, non-defensive, fairly relaxed posture with your arms and legs uncrossed. Because like if we sit with our stuff uncrossed, it usually just kind of like signals to the other person that I'm not open to what they're having to say and I'm not even listening. So think about that. Face the other person. Don't sit or stand sideways. So face the person. Sit or stand on the same level to avoid looking up or down to the other person. If they're sitting and we're standing, sometimes that can um, communicate that we're trying to be dominant over the other person. So try to sit and look together. Avoid distracting gestures, such as fidgeting with a pen, glancing at papers, or tapping your feet or fingers. Be aware of physical barriers, the noise or interruptions that will make good communications difficult. Mute your phone, put it away, cut off the TV, make sure that you're really listening to the other person. Let the other person speak without interruption. So even if they pause to gather their thoughts, let them finish before you have your turn. And it's good for each person to do that. Like, let me finish my thoughts, and then you can, chime in or respond. Show genuine attention and interest. Use assertive statements like I feel or what I need, not about them, what you feel. So assertive statements, I feel about, or what I need. Be aware of your tone, like we just talked about. Again, use those assertive statements, how you feel. Use I and not, them. And also some other things here is be prepared to take a time out if you're feeling really angry about something. It might be better to calm down before you address the issue. That's really important even with our kids, even our teenager or adult kids sometimes, or even with your spouse or partner, coworkers, things like that. Sometimes you just have to say, give me 5 minutes. I just need to, collect my thoughts here and calm down. And it may not even be about them, but maybe we've been in another situation that's got us all revved up. So it's okay to say, give me 5 minutes. And especially for parents too, like sometimes we need as parents to gather our thoughts together before we address or talk to our children. Ask for feedback from the other person and person on your listening. So like make sure that you're getting feedback from what you're hearing. Okay. All right. So improving communication in your relationship. Open and clear communication can be learned, and it takes time. Some people find it hard to talk and may need time and encouragement to express their views, especially men. It's just hard for them to communicate sometimes. These people may be good listeners, or they may be people whose actions speak louder than their words. You can help improve your communication by doing some of these things. Building companionship, sharing experiences, interests, and concerns with your partner, and showing affection and appreciation. Even with your coworkers, showing interest or concern, showing appreciation in a job well done, things like that. Being on the same page as the other person. It's important that you and your partner are both in agreement on key issues in your relationship, especially like husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing, such as how finances are distributed and what are key goals you have in your parenting styles. So be on the same page. And sometimes that's where it's important that we take a few minutes as parents before talking to our kids so that we together are a team and we're on the same page. So what can we do to improve and communicate? Start asking questions. To improve the way we communicate, start by asking questions like, what things cause conflict between you and your partner? Are they there because you're not listening to each other? What things bring you happiness and feelings of connection? What things cause you disappointment and pain? What things don't you like to talk about, and what stops you from talking about them? Like money's a big one, finances. Nobody wants to hear like I overspent or I forgot to pay the bill on time, or, little things like that. How would you like your communication with your partner to be different? So think about these questions, and can you answer them for yourself? And maybe this is something that we sit down with our partners or close individuals and we go over this so that we were on the same page. If possible, ask these questions with your partner and share your responses. Consider and try ways to communicate differently. See whether the results improve your communication. When you are more aware of how you communicate, you will be able to have more control over what happens between you. While it may not be an easy first, opening up new areas of communication can lead to more fulfilling relationships. So these are things you might want to consider, working with your partner and doing together. All right, so managing conflict. Avoid using the silent treatment. That's never cool to just avoid the other person, which sometimes it may be easier, but usually it leads to festering up inside of us and we just like explode then. So usually the silent treatment's usually not the best thing to do. Don't jump to conclusions. Find out all the facts rather than guessing at motives. Discuss what actually happened and don't judge the other person, but what really happened. And that takes some listening on each other's parts to find out what actually happened. And don't judge. Learn to understand each other, not to defeat each other. Usually we're in this together, and it's not a win, like, oh, my way's better or whatever. That doesn't do anybody any good, to defeat each other. Talk using future and present tense, not the past tense. I have learned, like in my relationships, that if something bothers me, that I have to bring it up within 48 hours of that issue. If it goes past 48 hours, then I can't bring it up anymore. And you can't bring up things I've kind of used as a rule of thumb, or I try to use, because remember, we're learning this, not to bring up past tense things. So unless it happened within the last 48 hours, I can't bring it back up. It's done. We have to move on. So those are things like just as maturity maybe, and things that I've tried to do, because remember, we're learning to do this and we're constantly growing and evolving. So think about talking in future or present tense, like what's happening right now, and don't bring up the past. Like, we've got to keep moving forward, not keep going backwards. Concentrate on the major problem and don't get distracted by other minor problems. Remember the saying, don't cry over spilt milk. What are the major things here? Talk about the problems that hurt your partner's feelings, and then move on to the problems about differences in opinions. And one more time, so it's important, use I feel statements, not you are. So I feel hurt when this happens, not don't use you're doing this on purpose. You are making me feel, things like that. Take responsibility for yourself. I feel embarrassed. I feel hurt. I feel whatever. Does that make sense? Use I statements. Don't place blame by saying you are doing this. Okay. All right. Some tips for successful relationship. Talk to each other and communicate your needs. Don't wait for your partner to try to guess what's going on with you. Talk, communicate, ask questions. If you have something to bring up, do it gently. Going on the attack rarely achieves a positive outcome. Listen to each other. Often we are busy defending ourselves or making our own point that we don't hear what our partner is saying. Let your partner know that you have heard them before you give a response. Remember the positives about your partner. This helps protect your relationship. One critical comment needs 5 positive comments to counteract its effect. Think carefully before criticizing. Make repair attempts. If your attempts to talk about an issue don't go as planned, try not to let the situation become more negative, such as talking for extended periods, such as not talking for extended periods or ignoring the other person's attempts. Saying sorry or touching your partner in a caring manner shows you care, even though you disagree. Spend time together. That's important. Make your relationship a priority and make time for each other, even if you have to book it, like even if you have to make that date night. Regular deposits in your relationship bank account will help protect your relationship. Work on feeling good about yourself. This will help the way you feel about your relationship. If I don't feel good about myself, how can I put in good feelings towards my deposits towards my relationship? Accept and value differences in others, including your partner. We often choose people who have qualities and abilities we would like more of. This is one reason why our relationship offers us significant opportunities to grow and develop as people. And remind yourself of this. So, what did we like about the other person? Accept that it's okay to be different. Make plans, set goals for your relationship, and plan your future. This shows that you're both in the relationship for the long term. Be supportive. Try not to judge, criticize, or blame each other. We're all human. Remind yourself that you are a team, and in order for the team to be successful, you have to cheer each other on. Be each other's cheerleaders. Learn from arguments. Accept that arguments are going to happen, and they're going to happen. And we try to resolve them with respect. The strongest predictor of divorce is contempt, which is any action whereby your partner feels put down by you. Whether it's the tone of voice or what you say in arguments, we sometimes become overwhelmed, and this often leads to behaviors that harm our relationship. It's good to stay calm during disagreements. Look at your partner in the conflict rather than focusing only on your partner's contribution. Be attentive. Be attentive. Demonstrate your commitment to the relationship. It is what you do for someone else that tells them that you love them. We tend to give our partner what we hope to receive, but they prefer another form of affection. Do they like gifts, quality time with you, a note card, or a cooked meal? Once you know what they like, make an effort to provide it. Enjoy yourself. Have fun and celebrate your life together. Rituals can enhance your relationship. It's also important to try new things as a couple. Do fun activities together. It's very important, as often as deep and meaningful conversations about couples issues can turn to disagreements, which leave us both feeling worse, not better. Fun activities are like glue, and they don't have to cost anything. You don't have to go on big, expensive, elaborate vacations. Go for a walk in the park, go for a walk around your neighborhood. And that leads oftentimes to communication, just doing things together. And like I said, it doesn't have to cost anything. Being together, watching a movie at home, things like that, it doesn't cost anything. You're just setting aside time for each other. Be flexible. Let your relationship grow and adapt as we both change. And you're going to change over time. It's inevitable. We all change. So be flexible. So it's important to remember that, like not all relationships, um, we have to be able to, improve our relationships. Sometimes we have to consider, counseling, third-party mediators, and it can often be church leaders that help us with this. But if you can't, resolve those issues, recognize that, and it's okay to ask for help. So, think about going to counselors that they're uh, trained to recognize the patterns in a couple's communication or what's causing the problems, things like that. But try to ask for help before just immediately throwing in the towel and saying this isn't going to work. And, divorce, happens. Um, Usually relationships are worth fighting for, and worth working for, and it's going to take work.